I've been a technologist, solution selling salesperson for a good 25 years. Most recently I exited and sold my software company, which was an enterprise workforce management solution, which I built up over a very long period of time, 18 years. After selling that, I really had to think deeply about what I wanted to do, for the next 10 years of my life. So I thought deeply about that. Health rhymes with wealth, right? And the measure of health is to be both socially, psychologically and physically in a state of well-being. I look at wealth the same way because to me wealth is not lots of money. Wealth is having the money, managing it and then utilising it in a way that is rewarding, and I think wealth to me is a lot more holistic. Well, I've been a technologist, solution selling salesperson for a good 25 years. Most recently I exited and sold my software company, which was an enterprise workforce management solution, which I built up over a very long period of time, 18 years. After selling that, I really had to think deeply about what I wanted to do, for the next 10 years of my life, and there was a reasonable degree of financial freedom that came with that transaction, so that had an amount of personal responsibility, So I thought deeply about that, and there was two real main threads for me, which was philanthropy. I had a very big desire to kind of give back and give some service, and also I was still a technologist and I had a lot of entrepreneurial, energy in me. So I teased that out for 2 years, that these two things, and I toyed with them over a 2-year period, just making investments in companies, helping founders, doing different philanthropic things. And so what I'm doing today is Volantis Group. And Volantis Group is an entity, and it has a mandate, and that mandate's to have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people on the planet.
Cool.
It's a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
And that's the mandate, and we really focus our attention on 4 people, which is the youth, the entrepreneur, the ambitious, and the disadvantaged. And we do it through 4 entities. So we have a charitable trust, and we build for-profit technology applications that have the greatest impact on people. So we use technology to have the impact, and we partner with founders and build those, and anything that capital gains that are derived from those enterprises from the trust shareholding, we recycle back in with donations and we do more good. And then we have a venture firm that provides strategic advisory services to early stage technology companies where we help the founders grow. And then we have a capital business where we start to accumulate wealth, and so that we can use that wealth to do more good. And then we have an M&A arm, which is our VG Capital, where we help sell the companies to help them realise their exit. So yeah, I always say I went from having 1 company to my next project having 4 entities, but those entities are operating independently, but together they service the mandate, which is to elevate people.
So cool.
Yeah, that's me for the next 10 years.
Yeah?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. But that will be a legacy that I'll feel good about, yeah. Selling my previous business was a very big labour of love, but it didn't feel like the legacy that I wanted to create for myself. So, yeah.
So if you think back kind of to the start of your journey, was there a moment that prompted you to become more intentional about wealth?
Yeah, I've thought about this. I didn't really think about wealth until, this is going to sound really, really cheesy, but until I realised that how deeply I loved my wife, and the fact that we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. And I do remember the pinnacle moment where I said, I'm going to create a future for us. And that future was wealth, because with wealth came what I felt would be a good life for the both of us. So I do remember that moment pretty clearly.
Beautiful.
So I'd never thought about wealth prior to that, and
So is it a conversation that you and your wife had together and a discovering of what it meant for the both of you?
Not really. It
Yeah?
was just it was just a light bulb
Yep.
moment. I just said, I'm going to, because I'd already set up my second business.
Okay.
So it was just a double down,
Yeah.
you know. I think I did the entrepreneurial thing because I didn't like working for people.
Yep.
But I didn't do it because I wanted to make a lot of money.
Yep.
And it was that moment that I thought I wanted to create some wealth for us and our future and our children. So, yeah.
So your first business then was kind of your step away, well, unconsciously or consciously, towards building your own wealth. What did that look like?
The first business, or
Well, yeah.
just the pathway? Or?
Yeah, I suppose the pathway, yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is I was in a corporate job.
Yep.
And I got afforded an opportunity to be a distributor for a product that was offered to me. And so I just leapt at that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I was just never someone that liked taking orders. I didn't like hierarchy. I didn't like working for somebody. I didn't like places where if I had an idea, my capability to project that idea was constrained by the hierarchy in the organisation. So I just leapt on it and resigned, worked in a bottle shop to pay salary, set up this distribution of this software application, self-taught myself the entire thing and how to do it, and just paid my way until I made a sale, and just got on with it, really. But it was all, I just taught myself how the software worked, how to install the hardware elements of it, and
And so did that experience kind of lead you into your next one, or?
Yeah, the first two businesses led me to our larger one, where I was. I sold point of sale solutions to hospitality. So some of that is that we purchased, hardware like touch screens and cash drawers. So my business partner had a business. I bought that off him. So he approached me and said he wanted to get into software, and I said, cool. Let's come up with an idea and let's do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was also the time I realised that being a solo entrepreneur it's too difficult. It's very hard, So
we've had conversations with people on the podcast before around not necessarily getting into business with friends because they haven't had necessarily good outcomes. What's your experience of that?
I haven't gone into business with friends.
Okay.
If I had to make an opinion on it, I don't think it is a good idea.
Right, you agree?
I think because there's probably a lot of emotion attached to it. But then when what's the line of definition
A friend.
of a friend, right? So there's a very, very good close friend. There's a middle ground, and so I guess it depends for me on the definition of that.
Okay.
And obviously by building a business with someone, typically you're going to become friends with the person that you're building the business with, because you spend obviously probably the most time with them out of anyone else in your life during that period.
Yeah, more than your spouse.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, you see a lot of the early stories that come out of Silicon Valley often are couple of dropout friends from college that are obviously praised, and they get a lot of press.
Yes.
So there's that kind of archetype.
Yes.
And I would say that perhaps older founders seem to veer away from, I guess, starting a business with a close friend or even family, is what I've kind of observed so far.
Yes.
And I guess it's because when you're younger, it is probably easier to start with a friend because you don't have a network yet.
Yes. True.
So who's gonna take the leap with you other than your friend in your dorm room?
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah. But I think it is it just depends on that definition, the level of that friendship, But I think there's some interesting statistics on the success of partnerships. I think it's pretty low, the success rate of partnerships.
Okay.
So it's it's two people working pretty closely together, and then you blend in money and
Can be complicated.
But I'm still very good friends with my business partner. We had 18 years of a lot of toil.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was a very different, a much more level person than I am. So even if I blew my stack, he'd just sit there and wouldn't get emotional, and you know. So yeah, so
the yin and the yang, I guess.
The yin and the yang, yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so obviously nothing always goes to plan. What are some of your key learnings when it's all gone downhill?
I would say that over 18 years, the experience that I've amassed is not the successes, it's the failures.
Yeah.
We've made a lot of mistakes, and I think that's where you learn. And so when I give advice to founders, it's just, I can just see the markers of failure, you know, the things that I've done that I can see that they're either about to do or they are doing. So a lot. Gosh, where do I start? Probably one is not understanding my own limitations, skills, and what I'm the best at and what I should be doing in the business, and just taking an attitude of two founders. I'm a founder, I'll do everything, you know, and not understanding that I should be utilising, you know, the skills that I had, and so should my partner, business partner, doing what we're good at, not what we think we should do. So that was a big mistake. Not bringing in people earlier, you know, to give them a little bit of our equity, to bring in smart people, you know. So we laboured very painfully for a long time because of the two of us, because we had this concept of, we want to keep our little piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And in fact isn't as enjoyable as I'm enjoying myself now, which is to bring people into the journey, right? And create something. So a lot of mistakes there, a lot of poor execution, not understanding that when we start something that there's what I call it now is completing the value stream.
Yeah.
So whenever you start something, you have to acknowledge that it has a starting point and there's an end point and an objective, you know. And I think a lot of what we did is we didn't understand what the end looked like. Yeah. And then so we would go about it, and we'd either stop here and never get there and just execute really, really, really poorly, I think, in that regard. So that was a few mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 18 years and what you're doing now, how have you balanced the so-called work-life balance? Like you mentioned before that you've done ultra marathons in the past, and you're working out 4 mornings a week now. Yeah. Do you want to expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, good question. So when I sold my company, I as part of the kind of deep thinking, I created my hierarchy. So it was family first. Yeah. So it was my kids and my wife first. It was my health and my mental well-being second, and it was the job third. So that
and was it not
hierarchy.
That before?
No, it was all the job.
Yeah.
You know, it was the job, the family, and the health and well-being. You know, so yeah. Although I still, you know, did
what you
did
could.
all the stuff, but I didn't consciously create the hierarchy. And then how do I achieve that? Through time boxing.
Oh yeah.
So my life is completely and utterly time boxed.
Okay.
So I work out 4 days a week, 7 o'clock, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays. I do the weights. I do, you know, a spin class on a Monday at that time. So everything that I do is time boxed. I do my drop off with my son and my daughter these 2 days. So it's in a calendar, and there's very little room. And so every term, my wife and I sit down and we say, what do you want? What do the kids need? We build this calendar, and everything is time boxed.
That's
and
awesome.
I can't move outside those lanes, because otherwise I won't be able to
do
keep
everything.
the balance.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it. Yeah. And and there's a conscious. You know when you've changed the tilt a bit.
Yep.
You know, you can either I haven't done this, or I need to get back onto the well-being thing. So I guess once you build the hierarchy, you create the rhythm.
Yeah.
You can feel the markers you
Yep.
know. So yeah, that's how I do it.
So in terms of the 18-year journey, how long did it take you to really get product market fit?
Yeah, well,
Or did you have it initially, but it took a
Yeah.
long time to scale? Well, like 18 years is obviously a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That we didn't even ask ourselves the question of product market fit back in 2000. And what we were very fortunate on was a couple of things. One was timing,
Yep.
that the market was really ready for our type of application, which was workforce management. So that's one, we were just lucky, I think,
Right.
in that regard. The second one was that we already had a client base. So most of what we were building was for the hospitality and retail sector. So we gained product market fit because from the very day one, we went out to our 30 clients and said, hey, if we could do that for you, would that be good? And they go, oh man, you can do that. That'd be great. So we
Right.
built that.
Yeah.
And then we said, here it is. And they went, oh gosh, I wish I could do that. So we did that.
made it.
So we built the first generation of our product entirely on the responses from the clients. And that was what gave us product market fit.
Yeah.
Because we didn't sit in a room, raise 500,000 and go, this is what we think they'll want, you
Yeah.
know, and pay a lot of money. We just built it as they asked us. And I think that's why we hit.
And was your business partner an engineer?
He was an electrical engineer, so
So he
we were
didn't- he
both
didn't
sales.
program.
We were sales guys,
Right.
You know, so we had a developer.
Okay. So you just hired one dev.
One kid straight out of uni who is still with the
That company.
acquiring company.
Wow.
Yeah. We had 125 employees, and I think 12 to 15 of them have been with us for over 15 years.
So a good company to work for then.
So that was a good legacy. That's
Yeah.
what made me feel good. But that's how we got product market fit. Yeah, we just built as. Could you do that now? I don't know.
Did you? How did you already have the clients?
Because I was selling
You were selling the hardware
point
to
of
them.
sale solutions, so they were already our clients. So what happened is we were selling this. We were distributing a software solution out of New Zealand,
Yep.
and we weren't getting supported well. And that's where my partner and I said, we're never going to build ourselves an asset if we have to sell someone else's software that they're going to sell and we're not going to create any value.
Yep.
And that's when we said we need to build our own software application.
Right. And it was a nice transition phase.
It was the same. It was the same
Thing.
client base.
Right.
So we just went to our clients and said, "Oh, you know, you've got this point of sale solution, but what about if you could roster and capture your employees' time and that's yeah." So we had the same market to sell to. We just
So they
gave
just
them a
did
new
they
idea.
churn from the old product into yours?
Well, the old product they kept because it was a different
Different thing.
totally different thing.
Right.
Yeah,
so they kept that point of sale thing,
Yeah.
and then you basically were like, "Here's
We got
rostering."
we got a new
and-
idea. Yeah. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we already had the customers
You
that
already
were
had the
willing to take
distribution.
yes, yeah, and they were willing to take a chance on us because we
Yeah,
had
'cause
already
you had the
established
relationship.
The relationships,
trust and,
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool.
So that's a bit that's from a product market fit is what went well for us. Yeah,
And did you ever raise any outside capital?
we did one round in 18 in 18 years. So we had one angel investor 3 years
Okay.
in. So yeah, and we gave away too much. And,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was one check, one angel investor.
One angel investor, then we had a huge degree of profitability.
Afterwards.
Yeah, from that yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
And you needed? Was it a matter of needing the capital, or were you just wanting to ramp your growth?
Oh, we needed the capital.
You needed
Yeah,
it.
we hadn't paid salaries for 3 years. We both he'd mortgaged his house. My wife was getting
Annoyed.
tired of paying.
Yeah.
So we're at
So it was at
we're at the
3,
very end of our tether.
and at 3 years in, that's kind of where the perseverance comes in. You know, like
Yeah.
a lot of
Yes.
smart investors I know talk about, you know, companies kind of whittle away when the founders can't go any longer. More so perhaps than the validity of the product or the business.
Yes.
Because there are so many, obviously you'll know in startup land, obviously you're kind of not there until one day you're there. But it was obviously because of all these incremental steps that you took previously that get you to that end, to that state where you're kind of, I guess, first of all would be default alive.
Yeah.
And then, I guess you guys took a bootstrap approach for 3 years.
Yes.
And then needed to kind of, I guess, take the pressure off. So ultimately, and that's the interesting thing about startups and equity and building wealth, is you're kind of selling a bit of yourself in order to kind of serve some sort of need.
Yes. Yeah.
And then from then on, it was just you were able to focus more. Do you think your guys' ability to execute increased or improved once you had the angel investor because the pressure was in a sense slightly off, or do you think the pressure was more on?
No, part of the transaction was the money.
Yeah.
But also he agreed to work in the business.
Okay.
For, I think it was 2 years.
For free?
Oh, no.
Okay.
In return for more. Yeah.
So there was some sweat equity he earned as well, or?
Yeah, but it all went towards his equity. Yep. So so that gave us so he gave us the the level of, I guess, expertise we were missing, which is making contracts were right, and also I think there's that saying which is which a lot of founders do, which I really double down on with them, is you focus so much in the business that you forget the on, so you forget to think about the strategy of the business. So you're too much
where
in
you're
it.
going.
Yeah. So you're too much in it. So you can't extrapolate yourself out to be strategic. So he gave us that because we were, and a lot of businesses I think they're peddling because they're reactive and they're just on the wheel and they're never gonna get there because they're not painting a strategic picture of where they want to go. And so that's not uncommon. So he gave us that. A bit of focus.
Yeah, I often found, even in previous kind of times in my life, where you almost get decision fatigue.
Yes.
And that's the problem when you're deep in something, right? Is you're constantly thinking about how to solve the next problem that, like you say, you may not be looking about where you're going.
Yes.
You can't see the forest from the trees, as that saying goes.
Yeah.
And I think you actually want to make as few decisions as possible. You just want to make high impact decisions.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I find anyway.
Yeah.
And there's a good book that I read called Thinking in Bets, which is all about disassociating decisions from outcomes. And I love that book by Annie Duke. She's a poker player, but she now advises in hedge funds and venture capital and private equity.
Yeah.
But you can, basically the premise is that you can make a decent decision and have a bad outcome.
Yeah.
And who you are as a human doesn't necessarily diminish if you make a decent decision with the information you have and have an outcome that you didn't desire.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's valuable for any founder or person that has to make decisions that have unreliable outcomes.
Yes.
Like sports would be another good example.
Yeah.
Gambling, of course, and obviously startups and investing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is such a thing as poor decision making.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, totally. But when you retro, because often I think you have to retro things, right? So you need to retro. Yeah, am I happy with the decision I made based on the information I had?
Yes.
If I'm not, then that's great. I can learn from that part of things.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can make a pretty decent decision and it didn't turn out right.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, there's the decision, then there's the execution.
That's the whole. Yeah, that's the whole other.
So that's a whole nother ball game. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we did have more capital. We had a non-exec director that was he managed a family office. So when we did need more capital,
they gave you a line of credit.
He gave us a line of
that's
credit
cool.
on that. So, and that we utilised that up to the tune of well over a few million. So in saying that, we did need additional capital, but we didn't need to
sell yourself.
Didn't need to do equity finance. So we were fortunate.
You just paid interest on that.
Yep. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that's the strength, I think, of a good board. Good board. I'm a big advocate for a board.
Yeah, of course.
As two founders, without a board structure, you're not accountable. You make your own bias decisions. I'm a big advocate for a board structure.
Yeah, totally.
You know, for accountability, especially for founders. Yeah.
How important has your network been? Whether it's necessarily the right kind of network, or have you had to pick and choose and grow it for your wealth journey?
No, not. I mean, my wealth journey's, pretty. What's the word? I laboured for 18 years.
Yeah.
We sold the company, and I accumulated
Yeah.
some wealth. So it hasn't been multifaceted
Okay.
in that regard. So I haven't needed to, from utilising a network to accumulate that wealth. It's
Yeah.
just a lot of labour,
Graft.
and building that company. I'm mindful of that falling off. But the last 2 years and what I'm trying to do now,
Yeah.
the network is the people is
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So it's like that is the muscle that has been absolutely flexed over the last 2 years and continues to be done now, only because of the mandate.
Yeah.
If we're going to elevate as many people, the best way to do that is to get lots of people
Yeah.
together to help us do that.
Yeah.
So it's just a different mandate.
Would you do it again? The 18 years?
I wouldn't do it the way we did it again, no.
How would you do it then?
Oh, I would do it like I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
I would come up with an idea and I would own a small piece of it and I would help bring in all the different people and give them a little piece of it and let them do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. So, and elevating them and giving them an opportunity. But if I was going to do it again, I would, bring a lot more people in on the journey that had complementary sets of skills that enabled me to do it quicker. And I'd raise capital earlier. I wouldn't bootstrap anymore, but, I don't believe. And I think founders are thinking differently. I mean, you might be a more a recent founder than I am, because I'm. But I think the mentality is a little different now. Our founders, I don't think founders are trying to bootstrap and then get to a point, and then they may look to raise capital earlier. Is my point.
I think
rather than labouring for 2 years with a lot of stress and bootstrapping. I don't know.
I think it depends, right? On the business specifically, and how much you can go, how far you can go alone.
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple of things that have changed dramatically since when you started,
Yes.
which would be obviously the allure around being a startup founder has changed
Yes.
dramatically.
Yes.
So that's one thing that has impacted things. And then obviously because it has become more popularized, probably through Hollywood in some ways,
Yes.
that there are more investors and more founders trying to get capital,
Yeah.
in some cases for the sake of getting capital as well.
Yes.
So I would say with the gaming startup I did, if I could do it again, I would have raised capital later rather than as early as I did. And we still got the business going and got it live with thousands of users before we raised capital off by bootstrapping. But I would have gone further because we basically got too diluted, which it affects future decisions.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's one of those, again, in startups, it's very marginal of the have from the have-nots. There are a few, we sold our IP, but there are companies that we were competing with aggressively that we were actually ahead of that went public. So I think that there's an allure around raising capital these days, and I would say that it's people shouldn't raise capital for the sake of raising capital, and you should try and go as long as you can, because in New Zealand as well, unfortunately, the cost of capital is so much higher.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's.
But then with
fair point.
with our current group and our current business, it's obviously it's not a gaming platform, right? So there's regulatory
Yes.
burden. There's more at stake in a financial product than necessarily a kind of tournament gaming platform where you win rewards.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the amount you need to get it to market and so forth. And yeah. I mean, I learned from someone there is 5 sources of capital for an early stage business. It's customer first. You should be able to get your capital from your paying customers, sponsorship, grants, and so forth, debt finance and equity finance. So I think the equity finance is the allure, the allure one, I think, in that regard. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of questions that you used to get, I think people are a bit more sophisticated to it, but it used to be how much have you raised and how many employees do you have?
Yes.
Which aren't great metrics.
No.
No. Because then it's kind of like, how much have you raised and how long until you die based on the amount of employees you have?
Yeah, for sure.
You have brought up legacy quite a lot in this conversation. So how have you talked to your kids about that? Because legacy is a long-term thing, right? And in my mind, legacy is something that we leave to the people after us, which for you, you've got a couple of children. How does that follow through? And are there conversations that you have?
I'm not having conversations with my children about legacy because I don't think a 15-year-old and 11-year-old is even in that realm. You know, they're like, wake up in the morning. What is it? What's important to me? So I haven't started those conversations with them, to be honest.
Yeah.
But a legacy is greater than what to me anyway, to what I would leave to my children. It's how I've impacted other humans and the effect I've had on them.
Okay.
Is the legacy.
What would be a good measure? How many people go to your funeral?
Of a good legacy?
Yeah.
I think a good... I'm thinking of that movie. Do you remember that movie, Big Fish?
No.
Oh, it's brilliant with Ewan McGregor. Anyway, how many people go to your funeral? I love it. I'm going to watch that. I think for me, a legacy is 2 things. One is the amount of people that have been positively impacted by your actions, hence what I'm trying to do now. And I think secondly, it's the, is it going to continue? You know, have you created something that's going to live on and continue to do something for somebody, that isn't going to die with you? Is it going to carry on and is it going to continue to offer goodness and stuff like that? I think that's yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that. How many people are going to come to my funeral? I just haven't thought about that.
Well, hopefully by the time you get there, it's like...
that's it.
Well, with streaming, it could be quite a lot.
As well.
True.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
In regards to, if you were going out today and you were starting again, what would you do? What would be the first 3 things you do when you leave this room?
If I was going to...
Just had your aha moment with thinking, okay, I want to build something bigger than myself for my family. Specifically, obviously, at that time, it was your wife. But you have all the knowledge and insight that you have today. What are the 3 things that you do when you leave this room?
So if I was going to...
So you're going to start your journey right now in a younger kind of self.
To embark on a project.
To embark on your entrepreneurial and wealth building journey. What are the 3 things that you do immediately after leaving here in an alternate universe, but you have the insights that you have garnered over 18 years of hard graft?
I'd find more than one person to do it with me.
Yeah.
So not one co-founder, but I would think deeply about the people that I wanted to come on the journey with me.
Yeah.
I would take a lot of considered time to think about the idea of it, the impact that it's going to make, and is it going to be successful? So ideation, that sort of thing. And I guess the third thing is I'd probably put a lot of thought in how I'm going to execute it and make it successful. Yeah.
Is execution the most important part?
I think it's more important than planning. Yeah. And when I say execution is starting with the end in mind, and working backwards. So, probably even 5 years.
Right.
Like where do you, and just working backwards and creating a sequence of activities and actions that support that. Oh, the last thing I'd do is come up with the why statement. Do you know Simon?
Yeah.
I just,
big
that
time.
transformed our business when we had to do some transformation. So I'd really make sure I understood and thought deeply about why I was doing it. You know, the North Star.
And was that why as an organisation, or was that why as an individual?
Why is, well, in thinking about the why for an organisation, I think it does blend in with the individual. Like, it has to be a personal, it has to be a bit of both, because that statement it's not a statement about a product. It's a much larger North Star, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like ours is, you know, we exist to elevate people, so, you know, to produce meaningful things so that we can change the world. You know, that's not
Not small by any means.
That's not a product, you know. That's a mandate. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, parting on one last question would be, well, what do you think the world needs most now in this moment then?
Less social media. The world needs what the world needs now is it just needs compassion, and it just needs people to be compassionate with each other, and it needs people to take an understanding of each other, you know, because I think we've lost a bit of sight of that, you know. I think it needs community, because I think social media is the ultimate sort of, is it an oxymoron, or, you know, it's just like, it's supposed to be this thing that, you know, that brought people closer, and I think it's just done the complete opposite, you know, and it's really destroyed, a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think it's a really complex world with a lot of moving parts, and I think people just need to you know.
Do you think
be compassionate with each other?
Do you think there's the same amount of stuff going on in the world? It's just that we have it blasted in our faces more, or do you think that there's more going on?
No, I think there's more going on, and I think it's a really good question. But I think there's more going on. I think I think there's the Western economies, the thriving of economics, that little presentation of you can build wealth, the American dream is starting to die a bit. There's a lot of disheartenedness, I think, in society. You know, there's a declining middle class, the economic pressures, and I think people are just a lot more strained, and I think purpose and meaning is missing a bit. You know, and I think that's what's occurring, and I don't think it's just because, you know, we can see it more on the news. I think
there are structural dynamics that are basically putting pressure in.
There's a societal frustration, and I think people's reaction is one of anger, and I think there's a lot of that emotion going around, you know, from a simple thing of road rage. Yeah. I'd love to know the statistics and the increase of road rage, you know.
That'd be really interesting.
Which is this sort of personal, you know, people, it's like, I guess the phone, I mean, we've been a bit off grid here, but I guess even the phone creates this personal thing where you're forgetting that, you know. So I just try to remind myself, the person who pulls in front of me is a father, a son, a person that's, you know, got a family that struggles. It's not a car with a person that's got in my way and is there to make my life a misery, you know. And I think that's what's happening in society. People are. It's like, you're this, you're that, you're, So that's what I think we need to get back to. Yeah,
I agree.
That's what I'm trying to create, is an ecosystem of like-minded people wanting to do great. Yeah. I thought you were going to ask me, what does wealth mean to me?
Well, what does wealth mean to you?
Oh, good, because I've got an answer for that.
You're pre-prepared.
Careful. Well, health rhymes with wealth, right? Mm-hmm. And the measure of health is not just, if you think of what it is to be healthy, I guess the default response is to not be sick, right? Yeah. But the definition of health is to be both socially, psychologically, and physically in a state of well-being, right? And that's health, right? Which is your eat. I don't have to tell you what that means. So I look at wealth the same way.
Yep.
Because to me, wealth is not lots of money. Wealth is having the money, managing it, well, so that it doesn't. So it doesn't become a pressure point for you, and then utilising it in a way that is rewarding, and and so it's much more. I think wealth to me is a lot more holistic, than just having a lot of money. So it's what you do with it and how you manage it and how it enables your life to function with balance. You could have someone that wins the lotto, and they now have wealth. Their life can go completely off the rails. That's not wealth to me.
Well, kind of capital is just an enabler.
Yes.
Along with time.
Yeah.
And now computation as well.
Yes.
Because you can delegate, obviously, off to machine.
Yes.
To take care of processes and such.
Yeah.
So you have capital, time. Time, I think, is probably one of the most fascinating things.
Oh.
I could probably spend months and years of my life now thinking about time.
Oh, I just time is an interesting little enemy.
Yeah, totally is.
I'm fascinated by time. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but that might be a different.
Yeah, maybe that's the next
different
time.
subject.
Maybe that's the next episode.
Good.
Totally. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great.
Cheers.